Have you been diagnosed with nasal polyps? Contact Prism Clinical Research for more information about our nasal polyp study.
The Wild's efforts come up short as they fall 4-2 tonight in Washington to the Capitals. It's time for Wild Breakaway, presented by Prism Research. With Wes Walz, I'm Audra Martin. Coming into this game, the Minnesota Wild and the Washington Capitals were both sitting atop of their respective conferences, so we knew that it was going to be a battle between these two very talented teams that really sit pretty equally across the board when it comes to your key stats. But tonight, unfortunately, it was the Washington Capitals who get the very big 2 points and the pick-me-up they needed to snap their 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, and they did not really play well on the road. The Washington Capitals, the Wild knew that the Washington Capitals were going to come home and really play a solid game. The Wild surrendered the first goal again tonight for the sixth time in the last 8 games, really put them behind the 8 ball. I thought they played a solid first period. The second period, they got themselves in a lot of penalty trouble and kind of took themselves out of the game for me. Four kills. It did not allow Bruce Boudreau really to use his bench, did not allow him to use guys on the fourth line. He had to overplay certain guys. Guys like Ryan Suter played 29, 30 minutes. So that was really what really sunk the Minnesota Wild here for me. Obviously a valiant effort to come back in the third period, but it was too little too late for the Wild tonight.
So here's a look at tonight's final stats. 40 shots on net for the Capitals, 32 for the Wild. This game, a whopping 12 power play opportunities between the two teams, but each just capitalizing on one of those opportunities. A busy night when it comes to special teams, no doubt. But in the end, it's now the 4th loss in the last 5 games for the Minnesota Wild. Here's what the head coach had to say about his concerns, if at all, any concerns about this stretch.
I'm not concerned about how good our team is and how good we're going to be. This has been a pretty rough stretch. We're not playing our best, but it's at the same time, Mike. This stretch of games on every second night is a little bit of wear and tear on them. They'll get through it, and then we'll be better for it come April, May, and June, hopefully.
So here's a look at what's next for the Wild. The road trip wraps up Thursday night as they take on the Carolina Hurricanes. Then it's back home to face the Rangers Saturday night. Back-to-back games, split back-to-back games, sends them back on the road Sunday to take on the Winnipeg Jets for an afternoon game of hockey. But of course, when you see the Carolina Hurricanes, first thing you think of is Eric Staal. It's a big game for him, returning to face a team that he spent so many of his seasons with. And obviously the Wild would like to end the road trip on a high note.
Yeah, it's going to be really emotional for Eric. He won a Stanley Cup there in 2006. He's played there 10 years. Had a great time there, kind of basically grew up. He was an 18-year-old boy trying to learn the ropes, and he was a 19-year-old kid when they went on their Stanley Cup run and won a Stanley Cup. He's got a lot of guys in that Wild locker room that really respect him and watch him go around about his business, so I would not be surprised to see a lot of these Minnesota Wild players rally behind Eric. You know Eric wants to win this game. I would not be surprised if the Wild have a great effort in Carolina in a couple nights.
We're in the final weeks of the season, but yet these two teams have yet to face each other this season. So we will see what the Wild can get done against the Carolina Hurricanes and hopefully come home ending that trip on a high note. We'll see if they can get it done in a few nights. In the meantime, thanks for joining us on Wild Breakaway. For Wes Walz, I'm Audra Martin. This was Wild Breakaway presented by Prism Research.